Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross. I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my friend Christian Hall, Global Mobility Advisor for Itron. What's up, Christian? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Ben. How about yourself today?
Dude, it's just another day, man. Super blessed. I always consider myself so lucky to get to do this and then to have people now that are kind of working with me and like helping me put it together. Shout out to producer Samara and all the Glomo team here in HQ and Richardson. And then getting to talk to really interesting people like you, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet gig. I'm envious.
Yeah, I appreciate that. People think it's a paid gig, so don't be too envious. It's not. But yeah, it's fun to do though. It's a great hobby. Get in the comments here, hit that like button. I want to hear from you. It is April Fool's Day. Do you play any office pranks? Have you done anything, any shenanigans for April Fool's Day? Put it in the comments here. Or what is the best April Fool's Day joke you may have perpetrated or been a part of? Let me know. I'm really curious. There's been a lot of shenanigans going on in the Glomo office. As you can see, I'm actually live from my office right now. You can see all the pictures on the wall right now. My team kind of got a little nutty and put pictures of me, really unflattering pictures of me up all over the office. Get in the comments. I want to hear from you. Christian, have you ever been a part of an April Fool's Day prank or been pranked?
Yes, unfortunately, I pranked my daughter when she was a pretty young age. I was in the kitchen and I put some ketchup in a paper towel and pretended like I cut myself and started screaming. And she like ran in and like she went white. And after that, like it was game on for her. Like once she realized it was a joke, like this is by bar none her favorite holiday.
This,
So she had
oh, this is what we're doing, Dad. This is what we're doing.
That's it. That's it. So I think her three criteria is like she can't make a mess, authorities cannot be called, and there's one other one. I don't remember what the other one was, but it was pretty much like it had to be cataclysmic for it to be off the board. So
Authorities cannot be called. Well, listen, I mean, hey, I feel like you violated that rule though, because she could have called 911 immediately and you're there with a messy shirt and stuff. I mean, Dad, come on, you got to play by the rules here, Dad.
yeah, I kind of took it, from 0 to 80 really fast as far as the pranks go. So, but she loves it. Like I said, it's one of her favorite holidays. She has like a book that she starts writing up a couple weeks beforehand of all the different pranks she's going to play on me and the family. So it's been an interesting day.
She does, my kids don't do that much homework. She does research for April Fool's Day.
Oh, she's like individually planning what she's going to do to each brother, each sister, me and my wife. So it's always a fun surprise. I think this morning I woke up to my youngest daughter brought me a tissue and said, "Do you need to blow your nose, Daddy?" And obviously, I'm keyed into what she's doing. So I
Uh-huh.
opened it up and she's drawing a little spider with a Sharpie on the inside. So I freak out. It was fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, put it in the comments here. What's your favorite April Fool's Day prank that you've been a part of? I'm really curious. Samara, why don't you go get that brownie? Okay. So this is the second prank, real quick. I promise we'll get into love and to reload today, right? But first, we're talking about pranks, right? So Samara, our producer here, she's an intern with us, and she had the unmitigated gall to prank the boss on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Long story short, we're looking for an intern. So if anybody out there knows a motivated young person who plays it real straight down the line, and doesn't prank her boss, we'd appreciate applications. So get this. So they know I like sweets, right?
Right.
So they bring in donuts in the morning, and I had to run to a doctor's appointment and a DMV appointment, which we'll talk a little bit about too, because I just relocated. And and so they're like, oh, Samara's like, oh, I made brownies for everybody. So I'm like, cool, no, I love brownies, right? Samara's a baker. She bakes and stuff, brings food in from time to time. She
Ooh,
brings me
that
this
looks good.
brownie. Not bad, right? I take
Right.
this brownie. You can see where I bit into this thing. I bit into it. It didn't go anywhere. I'm like, she's like, you really gotta bite. They're a little overcooked. You know what? This is a sponge, Christian. This is a
Ugh.
sponge, a yellow sponge that
Hopefully
she
a new
put
one,
fudge on top of. I
not a
think
used
it's a
one.
new one. Is it a new one? She says it's
Okay.
new. She says it's new. Otherwise, we'd have to call the authorities. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't. I can't believe this. Can you? Have you
That's
ever been
pretty
pranked
good.
at work before?
I have. I think it was my birthday once, and I have like this weird, not like a fear of clowns, but I just don't like clowns. And
Sure.
I came into the office as well. I was at Lexicon, and they completely outfitted my entire cube with clown
Oh my
pictures.
gosh.
They had like a pool that they made that was like chocolate with I don't know. They went all out to try to instill fear in me. So, and I cleaned it up before I left for lunch. I came back, they reset it all back up as soon as I got back. So
Well, at some point that becomes harassment. I think at some point.
it was borderline. It was funny. I took it all in good humor.
Adrian says hello from Glomo HQ and Wendy Dallas. What's up, Adrian? Christian Ternedden. So good to see Christian Hall again. I remember calling the agents on his home sale files that he left for me when he quit Lexicon.
Thanks, Christian.
Who's the clown now,
Sorry about that.
Christian?
That's right.
Get the last laugh. I love it. Hosea Botley checking in. What's up, Hosea? Good to see you. Richard Majewski. Hi, Ben. Hi, Christian. Looking forward to the show. Richard from Essa Consultancy in London. P.S. I tried to April Fool the wife of the delivery today, but I'm too transparent. I don't understand what that means. You told her it was coming? I don't understand. It must be British humor. I don't get it. Robert Munn. My roommate stuck my milk for my cereal in the microwave the night before the morning practice the next
Ooh,
day. The night before, so you know that thing was rank.
nasty.
And Robert, you were like an Olympian, weren't you, Robert? I've been following your story a little bit. I think he was a rowing guy in the Olympics.
Oh wow.
He said he had no idea, nearly gagged when I went to eat it. Absolutely brutal. Oh
That's
man.
pretty bad.
You're gonna play a trick on that poor girl when she returns? Yeah, Richard, I think I am. I don't know. What prank should we play on Samara the intern here to get her back? Let us know. Oh, now she's saying it's a team effort. Now she's snitching on everybody. Okay, I got you. No, I got you. Now you snitching. That's double bad. What's in the brownie is illegal in Texas. Yeah, feeding sponges to people is illegal in Texas. Christian Ternedden. This is great. Janet Turner. Hi, gents. What's up? Yeah, this is great. I even started going back for a second and third, but yes, okay, fine. I nibbled on the sponge. I might have. Sheesh.
It's still chocolate on the outside, right? I would have licked that
I
thing clean.
know. I licked it clean. I should have licked it clean. That'll teach you. It's edible sponge. You got an edible sponge. The lies we tell ourselves. Janet says, I sent a message to the team that I resigned today. Some immediately knew it was an April Fool's, and some packed my box up and put it by the door. I did not let it last too long. Just kidding, Janet. Well, that would have been sad. I got calls today. I posted something on LinkedIn saying the Global House of Good contract was canceled, a $19 billion contract, and people thought it was serious. And I put a
Dude,
video saying April Fools, and people don't watch the videos; they just read the text. And people started calling me like immediately. It was
that's a pretty good one though.
That's what people get for taking me seriously, I think. But whatever. Super interesting. All right, Christian, let's get into it though. Christian,
All right.
you moved recently, right?
I did. We moved from Idaho across country to North Carolina.
What made you do that?
Man, I mean, I could lie and say it was business related, but really it was a calling from God to my wife. It was a vision that brought us out here. We don't know anyone here. Never been to North Carolina. Maybe we drove through here once, but we came out here to do a home finding trip between here and Tennessee. The vision she had was just the Smoky Mountains, and we came out here, and the vision that she saw was like a mountaintop with a pillar of smoke coming up. And as we were driving
Wow.
from Charlotte into Hickory, we looked up in the distance and saw the profile of the mountains. And sure enough, one of the mountains had this little pillar of smoke coming out. So that's exactly what I saw.
Oh
So
my
we canceled
gosh.
our portion in Tennessee, and we went home, sold our house, packed up the moving truck, and drove out to North Carolina.
Dude, that gives me chills, man. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that
it was
so
pretty cool.
much.
Well,
And
the
did
funny
did
thing is, like, we thought we were coming to kick our feet up, and like we're calling it our promised land. The church that we're coming to is well established, so coming from where we were in very rural Idaho, there was a lot to be had or built in the church. So this church, we thought, okay, everything's going to be gravy train, but really, it's kind of ironic. God brought us out here to work. I've been heavily involved there. I lead a men's group every week. We have a family group that we lead every week, and I've been doing discipleship with several of the guys. That's a 6 month, weekly course that we're going through. So definitely been busy.
So you came out, you felt like God was calling you to, well, first to Tennessee, but then you felt like really the signs were pointing towards North Carolina, it sounds like. And that's amazing. I had a similar kind of moment like that where I was sitting around a fire in Michigan with my wife, and she felt called to be in Texas, which is so weird because I'm from Texas. She's from New York, and she's very like close to her family, and more close to her family than to my family is natural. But she felt called to be in Texas, which is really interesting. And I'm like, well, that's odd. So that's kind of when it's like kind of a God thing, right? You're like, okay, that's not intuitive. That's like, okay, that's different. And so we did. We sold the house. I quit my job December 16th of 2020, and we moved down to Texas, where I kind of really started Glomo in earnest. And we've been here, and now this we've seeded this, and now it's we got an office here with there's 5 of us right now, here in the office, and it's really a beautiful thing. So I really commend your courage, and your faithfulness in doing that. I'm really excited for you, Christian. How's it been so far?
It's been amazing. The people have been amazing. The church experience, like especially for our kids, where we were in Idaho, we loved it. It was actually my wife's hometown. We were only there for 2.5 years. We moved there during COVID. And the funny thing is, she's been trying to get me, like, we met in Southern California, and she wanted us to move to Idaho so bad so she could go back to her hometown. But I told her, I'm like, there's no reload gigs. And I mean, this town is tiny. It's literally like one of those one stoplight, like they have a subway there, and that's about it. Like it's
Yeah.
not a big town. But God made a way, like with COVID, that was one of the kind of silver linings on the clouds is everyone got to work remote, and I was able to ask my boss to make that a permanent thing, and he agreed. So we moved down there.
Wow.
But coming out to Hickory, man, I love it. No more shoveling snow, no more snow blower. We got blessed with the house right on the lake, so I get to go fishing all the time, hang out in the sunshine. Like it's already almost swimming weather, and it's April 1st. Back in Idaho, they're going to be shoveling snow for another couple months, so it's been awesome.
That's really beautiful. So now you've moved several times from state to state, as you kind of said,
Mhm.
and some have been employer sponsored and some have been self-directed. This one
Right.
self-directed. How would you compare the two experiences?
Well, I mean, having a relocation done by the company is phenomenally easier. We moved from Seattle to Jacksonville, where I met Christian at Lexicon. No, I met him in Cardis. Never mind. He met us like that was when I originally got with my wife in Southern California. We left there, and I went up to Seattle, and then we moved to Jacksonville, and that was a managed move, which was great. Did a great job, put us in temporary housing right by the office, moved all of our goods. We were renting at the time, so there was no home sale, no home purchase, but just having the move coordinated for you is such a much easier experience than having to pack everything yourself, load it up, and drive it. Um, we
Yeah,
were
that's
in
massive.
Jacksonville. Yeah, I mean, just having movers, I think, is one of the biggest things that you can offer an employee that's moving. Um, but then moving to from Jacksonville to Atlanta was another managed move. We had a home, so I went through the home sale process, purchased a home through the home purchase. They arranged the goods, temporary, and we had a full policy, so it was very nice. Moving from Atlanta to Idaho was all on our own steam, so we had to sell our house on our own. My company now, Itron, that I moved out there for, they did give me a lump sum, which was helpful. So that kind of covered some of our out-of-pocket costs. But the move from Idaho to Hickory is the same. We did it all on our own. Um, and
And
yeah, I
no
mean,
lump sum this time, right? This was all out of pocket, right?
yeah, this was a personal move.
How
So
was
it
your
was all,
decision making different? I'm always curious about like the way we make decisions, when it's the company's money versus maybe the way we make decisions when it's our money, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot more luxuries and, or I say luxuries, I mean it's really a benefit because the company's asking you to do it, but you have more perks and things like that when you're doing it through the company. What were some like the trade-offs maybe that you didn't opt for when you were kind of coming out of your own pocket, and how did that turn out?
well, I think a lot of it was actually due to circumstances. Like there were things like at this phase in life, I would have actually paid out of pocket for some help. things like the move and car shipment. We were just so rural that no movers could even service us.
Oh
We
wow.
called several, and they're like, "Well, we have to drive up from Boise. That's a 3.5 hour drive. You know, I'm sorry, unless we add this huge cost in there just for the back and forth. You know, we can't do the move." Same thing with the car shipment. They wanted me to drive my Jeep down to Boise to ship it, and we just looked at the cost of everything. Um, and we ended up getting the biggest Penske truck that we could get. We had to sell a bunch of our stuff because we could only take what we could fit. And then we ended up. I was almost going to sell my Jeep, but I love it. It's a '76 Cherokee, and I've had it
Oh
for the last
wow.
10 years. So we ended up getting
76.
yeah,
1976.
even older than me,
Things
man.
things older than me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But we got a flatbed, so we pulled that up on there. Her parents were awesome enough; they helped us with the driving. We had the SUV with the 4 kids, the cat, the dog, and then we had the truck with one of the kids, the grandma and grandpa, and then we 6 days drove across the country.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got to understand this a little bit. So you got the biggest Penske they had. You filled that up with your house glue. That's probably a 26, 28 foot Penske. Those things are harrowing. I've driven those. Did you go through mountains on those in that thing too?
Oh yeah, coming through
During winter
Idaho, man.
weather too? Or was it
No, we
winter or
were
summer?
lucky. It was
Okay.
before. It was we left in September, so it was perfect
Oh,
weather-wise.
okay, cool, cool. All right. And then you mentioned getting that 76 Jeep up on a flatbed. What kind of flatbed is that? What are you talking about?
It was the biggest one that they had, and I actually had to remove things out of the Jeep because it was like a 5,000 pound weight limit. The town we were in had like one of those trailer scales, so I pulled it up on there, and I was over by like 300 pounds, so it made me a little nervous.
Hey, let me let you know
Uh,
what you do in that case, okay? You hang that left back wheel off the scale a little bit. It's called hanging a tire, okay? You do that, nobody knows
Gotcha.
nothing, all right? You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
No, but you rented a flatbed truck and you drove that in addition to
no,
the Penske, or how, I don't
no,
understand.
the flatbed trailer that hitches to the Penske truck.
Oh, so you towed the 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 Jeep on a flatbed trailer. So
Yes,
you didn't like hang it like and tow it like you put it on a trailer. Yeah.
yes.
Wow. Wow. So you had a 26-foot Penske with a truck daisy chain to that thing on the back end. That's dangerous, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say we were not making good time. We were
Yeah.
like a lot of
That'll get you
areas. Like,
close to Jesus right there. You're praying a lot. You're praying a lot. You're
hey,
focused right
there
there,
was a lot
because that
where
thing starts going like this. You get a little trailer sway going. That thing's dangerous. Watch
yeah, it
out,
was
man.
pretty hairy, but we took it slow. Like we had the pets, so we had to stop and let the kids out.
Oh my gosh.
2 of them were still in child seats, so we had to let them out and kind of stretch their legs.
And so now are you driving this and your wife's driving with the family behind?
We were switching, so we were
Okay.
taking turns by day as far as who was driving what. And yeah, I mean, there were definitely parts where he's got a lot more experience. He's got like one of the biggest RV fifth wheels that
Okay.
is known to man, so he's used to pulling that. So like in the heavy spots, he took the wheel for us and worked out pretty well.
Wow. We got
Just
people
slow
checking
moving.
in. Get in the comments here. What do you think about this? What questions do you have? Steve Miser, a moving driver, checking in from DC. What's up, Steve? People checking in. Janet saying, "Yay, movers." People are saying, "Fantastic journey and testimonies, gentlemen. Super cool." People are calling me SpongeBob SquarePants. Really clever. Gotta love that from Christian. We got a lot of punny people on today. Rob Zeitz checking in from Wicked Smart, Cambridge, Mass. He'll be on Thursday. What's up, Rob? It's good to see you, buddy. Let's see here. Darren Burley says, "What's up, my guys? Christian
What's
is
up,
my
dude?
dude. One of the sharpest talents out there."
Thanks, brother. You too.
Yeah, Darren's good people. I love Darren.
You too,
Let's
man.
see
That's
here.
good.
Oh man, we got a couple questions coming in. Let's take a couple questions here.
All
Um,
right.
Christian saying, "Ben, please ask Christian about his military service. He's a daredevil."
Yeah.
Hold on, hold on. We're gonna hold that question. We're gonna hold that question because I want to talk more about your reload real quick. Um, this LinkedIn user. Let's see if we can find out who that is. Oh, Anna Duran. What's up, Anna? Good to see you. Anna just relocated too to Texas.
Oh,
She
nice.
said, "My husband and I had a similar personal moving experience this past Christmas. We even downsized to a single vehicle for over 6 months and moved 3 times from 2 states because my husband felt called to a small but growing community in North Texas to open their first new public charter school. God calls and you must answer."
That's right. That's awesome.
Super cool. Yeah. Good. Welcome, Anna. Anna, we still got to go get dinner or something. I remember you said you and your husband moved down here. He's going to be the principal of a school. That's really cool. I think up in Sherman, Texas is where it is. And they have a
Oh wow,
Whataburger now too. So if you want to just keep it local. Richard
nice.
says, wow, Christian, I guess your faith has always been important. I'm guessing also was important to your parents. This is breaking new ground for me mentally. I didn't know people do this. Respect, of course. You want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't always been important to me. It's really, I've gone to church for a long time. It's always been important to my wife, and she's kind of dragged me along on Sundays for a lot of our marriage. Um, to be transparent, like I did have a problem drinking, and that's kind of one of those things that kept me away from pursuing Jesus, God, in a deeper fashion. But coming up on July 4th will be my 2 year sobriety. So I quit drinking
Wow.
and really started chasing after God. And this was uh, something that came up pretty shortly after that decision to pursue Him. And it was a big leap of faith. I mean, it wasn't even just having faith in God, but having faith that my wife saw this vision from God. You know, it was very pulling, but He confirmed things over and over again. And just seeing the way He worked in the unknowns, like selling our house, finding the right house, getting across the country with all that stuff, never once breaking down. I mean, everything, it was like all the doors were open and the red carpet was rolled out. It was amazing to see,
Yeah, super cool. God makes a way, doesn't he?
for
Super
sure.
cool. Did you think your wife was crazy like the first time, or were you like totally on board from get go?
No, I was not on board. I was, I mean, like I said, she had fought for, I mean, 15 years maybe at that point to get us to move to Idaho. We finally got there. We'd only been there for like 2 years. And now she
Yeah.
wants to move to the state that we've never been to, don't know anyone there. I'm like, what are you thinking? And I mean, it took me like weeks of like praying about it, thinking about it. And it was like, I just felt like a confirmation come over me that, yes, you know, this is something I'm asking you to do. And it's 100% by faith. So, you know, if you'll follow me, I will bless you for it. And he blesses me for it every day. I mean, we love it here.
That's so cool. You know, my dad always said my dad was a minister for part of my growing up. He was a counselor for part of it. And he was an ordained minister. He always said, "It's not faith if your knees aren't knocking."
That's
And
true.
it's like if it's not scary, if it's not hard, you're not really doing anything. You know. And I think that's really cool. And when you talk about your wife, it reminds me of my wife because um, she doesn't make sense to me a lot of times, but she's always right in a way. Like, I don't know if it's
Mhm.
intuition, I don't know if it's God, I don't know, whatever, but like she always comes up with the right answer, even though like I always say it's like when you go to school and they ask you to show your math, like show your work, and you get half credit for
Right.
getting the right answer and half credit for how you got there. The how you got there never makes sense to me with her, but she always has the right answer. And so I
Right.
just have to follow her and understand she has like an intuition about these things. And I applaud you for going along with what where your wife felt called to go to. It's obviously the right decision for you guys.
Yeah, it was cool to watch. I mean, like there was things that he showed me as far as you know, there's things that are in your control that you can directly influence, like getting the house decluttered, painting stuff, doing the projects around the house you know you need to do before you market it. You know, getting boxes packed up. There's definitely things that you are supposed to do. That's your role. And but then there's things that you can't plan for. They're outside of your control. And do you sit around and stress about those things, or do you just give it to God and go in faith and say, "Hey, we don't know what to list the house for. I mean, it's a super small market. He gave us a number. It sold like the first weekend. The first people that came through and viewed it made an offer. We made more than what we asked for it. You know, it was things like the house that we bought is amazing. I never thought we'd be able to afford a place on the lake, and he made a way for that to happen. I mean, he kept like in the areas where I didn't stress out, and I normally would have been very anxious and stressed. I just gave it to him and just watched him come through time and time again. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, that's one of those like lean not on your own understanding kind of things, right? Like this
Mhm.
obviously wasn't like super like didn't make a lot of sense probably at jump. and then look at all the things you got out of the deal, right? I mean, you got a dream situation. That's super cool. Really happy
Yeah,
for you.
I kind of say like he relocated us out here, like he brought us out
Yeah.
here for a job to do, and it's pretty neat.
Rich says, that's great, Christian. I'm 3 weeks into no drinking and so proud. Not sure I will make
Woohoo.
2 years. Well,
You can do it, Rich.
any tips for people that are thinking about making a life change like that?
I mean, we only live once, right, on this earth, and if you feel inspired to do something different and take a step out of your comfort zone, I mean, obviously, I'd say pray about it, and if you have a peace about it and it feels like something that you're supposed to do, then why not? Me and my wife are seasoned movers, as I mentioned. Like we met in California, moved to Seattle, to Jacksonville, to Atlanta, to Northern Idaho, to Central Idaho, to Hickory, all in the span of 20 years. So we're just, I guess, both movers and shakers. But if you haven't taken a step outside of your comfort zone, I'd encourage you to try it and see what happens. I mean, worst case, especially with the move, you can always go back. Um,
That's true.
but yeah.
That's so true. You can always go back. I think we feel like we're more fixed than we really are. You can always go back. Hey, hit that like button. Show Christian some love. Get in the comments here. I want to see your questions for Christian. His story is really interesting. It's kind of unique, but also kind of relatable. Janet says, has the thoughts on lump sum versus has the thoughts on managed lump sum versus lump sum changed over the past year or two? Have your thoughts?
So on lump sums, we do a lot of lump sums in our organization. And when we offer a lump sum as a relocation solution, we really have to understand the employee is going to have a lot more on their plate, while they're learning the new role. They have to combine training calls with a realtor listing their home. Their spouse might be calling for input on homes that they just found online. Contractors calling about repairs that they need to do. So it's kind of one of those business decisions that we look at. If we're going to offer someone a large lump sum and say, we expect them to do it just with that, we have to know that they're not going to necessarily hit the ground running. They're going to have kind of this gap, or this gray area when they first start work, but they're still trying to button down all those loose ends and be ready to effectively focus in on their job.
Do you almost have to like tell the business to budget more time for acclimation and preparation?
I do, and setting the employee up for that too. Letting them know that there is going to be a lot that they're going to have to manage on their own. For some people that are seasoned movers, that's not a big deal. Like for us, it was just a blessing to get some money to help with the cost. We already had a plan. We already knew what to do when we moved from Idaho or I'm sorry, from Atlanta to Idaho. But like for the managed services, we do have like I call it lump sum plus, where we have addendums that we can include that are home sale, home purchase, household goods plus storage, temporary housing. And we have a great provider now that has a wonderful online tool that helps with their network as far as giving them references to if they're looking for their own temporary housing, if they're looking for movers. So it's not like they're on their own like they used to be back in the past. I remember years back, they really just got a check and that was it. They were completely on their own to try to figure out the move, and it felt empty. I know a lot of companies have gone to like a core flex plan, or offering like a budget and saying, okay, we're going to give you $30,000 and here's a list of services that you can select from to use that money. And they're kind of held to that. I think that's okay. It's going to vary based off the corporate environment and their own culture there as far as what makes sense. What we see typically at Itron is like the lump sum moves are more of the entry level individual contributors, and then for like our managers, directors, VPs, they all get the managed program.
Okay. Do you use, I mean, I feel like lump sum has been trending since 2015-ish, 2017 with Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the removal of the moving expense deduction through fuel on that fire. Do you see the pendulum swinging back the other way into more managed moves? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely try to encourage when I'm brought into the conversations early on to offer more services than just throwing money at them. One of the ways that we try to control that is if they are just opting for a lump sum, we withhold tax from it, versus if they get a smaller lump sum and a household goods shipment and temporary housing, those services will be grossed up. So they'll get a smaller lump sum, but they'll actually net more value dollar for dollar because we're going to have the gross up on those services.
Sorry, Christian, my audio cut out here.
All
There we
right.
go. We're working on it here. Let's see. One moment here.
But I do think that like
Let's go with this.
I think the
Can you hear me,
pendulum will
Christian?
continue to swing. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hold on a second, Christian. Let me just figure this out here. I was getting too cute over here with the. How's that, Christian? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, awesome, cool. Yeah, sorry, I was over here moving. I wanted to get too cute, man. I just got just got to play it down the middle there. Yeah, I hope that we can be influential and increasing the amount of managed relocations. I mean, I do think it's a good benefit. I think it's a needed benefit. Get in the comments here. I want to hear your questions for Christian. Laura Benjamin. Hey, Christian. What's up, Laura?
Hey, Laura.
There you go. Richard says I can hear you both. No swearing. Got it, Richard. Thanks, buddy. What's for dinner, Richard, out in London town? We got some questions here. Let's get in here. Farrell Elliott says, with the pivot to lump sum being a trend now, do you have a way to track to see where your employers are spending their dollars and where they may have struggled doing it on their own? Ooh, interesting question.
No, that's one thing that we've looked at as far as doing more of a managed lump sum, being able to track it. But really, we've kind of not had a big issue with employees coming back after the fact saying that they struggled or they needed more help. Our exceptions are almost non-existent. So I think for the most part, it's working. But for me, what I try to do when I see that it's a large lump sum, like we're talking not 5 or 10, but like 30 to 60, I've had 90,000 being given.
Wow.
That kind of makes me shudder a little bit. And what I try to do is a needs assessment with them as soon as possible and take a look at what their needs are, and match those up to other services. Obviously, if it's already been offered and they're happy with the money, then it is what it is. But trying to get ahead of those higher dollar moves and doing that needs assessment, then I can at least have a case with the hiring manager and talent acquisition to say, look, this guy definitely needs a home sale. He's potentially underwater. The household goods shipment is a big service that we can offer that will take a lot of stress off their plate. So I do kind of advocate more for a managed move than I do for just lump sum payments, especially when we get upward
Is
of
there,
25.
that's what I was going to ask you. Is there a threshold where you feel like it should really go managed? Is it about dollars or is it about other things like are they a homeowner? Do they have a family, et cetera? Or do they have a certain level? I mean, what are maybe like the top three indicators maybe that you would look at?
The lump sum amount is usually what jumps out at me. But then I look at their title, their position with the company. Are we talking about like a manager, director, or is it a VP level? And I also look at their other compensation as part of the offer. Are they getting a massive sign-on bonus or no sign-on bonus? I've had to talk with recruiters before that we're kind of compensating them in relocation rather than giving them sign-on bonuses. And you're kind of robbing Paul to pay Peter. But it's one of those things where looking at the core of it, is it someone that is critical to the role that we need to get there? We have a location in Oconee, South Carolina, that's always been a challenge to get people into. Housing is almost non-existent there, so really advocating for, hey, let's at least get them an area tour, a paid area tour with a rental consultant that can help them find a place. You're going to save money on the temporary housing, those kind of conversations.
Interesting. We got some more questions here. This is great. I love these questions, y'all. Richard says, has anyone ever come back and said they spent all the money? Can we have more? Um,
No, it's pretty clear that that's what they're going to receive. And we do take taxes out of it. So a lot of times I'll do like a preliminary offer tax calculation for the recruiters to say, okay, you want them to net this amount, so we should kind of pad that based off the taxes that they're going to hold, so they can actually net that amount that you're targeting.
Yeah, you kind
But
of
they've
gross
never
it
come
up for them.
right.
Cool, cool. Let's see here. We've got a couple other questions here. Jack says, "What do you think will happen to these budgets once unemployment drops and talent is more scarce?"
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like when we're talking about budgets, that's usually what drives a lump sum versus a managed move for a lot of our hiring managers. If there's someone that's kind of on the edge of getting a managed program versus a lump sum, I'll do a cost estimate for them, and that's usually the kill to it. You know, like they'll say, well, what can we take off of this as far as services go to bring them into this range of money? And that's a whole different conversation as far as, you know, if you have to stick to 60K, then obviously this managed relocation isn't going to work for this person. We need to be more creative, and that's why we built out the lump sum plus offering to say, well, we can still give them a lump sum, but let's add on these additional benefits. So we're not just giving them money, you know, we're actually assisting with the move.
Tell
Um,
me about that lump sum plus a little bit, Christian, because that's a really interesting concept. I hadn't heard that. So how does that work, for instance?
so the recruiters have the ability to add to the offer, you know, other than the lump sum, they can add 30 days of temporary housing, 60 days of temporary housing. They can add home sale. They can add home purchase. They can add household goods. They can add household goods and 30 days of storage, household good 30 days in storage, and car shipment, depending on the distance. They can add them all together, or they can, you know, pick and choose which ones they want to offer. A lot of times, what we see is like the lump sum with household goods.
I really like this because it empowers talent acquisition to go out and do what's necessary to get the key talent to in the right place. And instead of saying, here's the, here's what we can pay, they're like, okay, here's another arrow in your quiver. You can try this, you can try that. And like, we're recruiters, right? I mean, our part of what our firm does is recruitment and being able to kind of, talk to the transferee and kind of see what their situation is. Maybe they have a big family, they're worried about those moving all those toys or whatever. You can kind of start to like say, all right, I think if I did this and this and this, I could get this person. And that's I really like that. Now, do you assign like a value to it? Like you say, listen, you can offer household goods with 30 days of storage. On average, that's going to be X so that the business understands the impact of the budget. Like, do you kind of give them like a roundabout idea of what that arrow in that quiver is going to cost them?
Yeah, and that's always hard to pinpoint, right? And my normal speech is if I move a 3,000 square foot home from, you know, one employee could be a borderline hoarder, and they're going to cost $25,000 to move out of there. The other one could be a minimalist, and it's $12,000. But what we look at is average cost, you know, for that job level to say on average it's going to be around 18, 20 grand. As long as they're okay with that, we add it in. I always buffer it a little bit because, you know, obviously they'd love to see them come under budget. Never happy to see them come in over budget.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really, really interesting stuff here. Um, oh gosh, I got so many questions here. All right, well, yeah, gosh, your questions are great. Put them in the comments. We're gonna try to get to everybody's. Hit that like button. Show Christian some love out there in Hickory, North Carolina, which I hear is beautiful. Is Hickory like the middle of the state, or is it the western part of the state?
It's in Western. It's just north of Charlotte.
Okay, so it's almost like towards the mountains, like Asheville area, or not quite?
Yeah, we're about an hour from Asheville, an hour from Charlotte, so right in between.
It's beautiful. I love Asheville. Um, you've been in this business how long, Christian? This industry?
24 years.
Wow, cool. So when you got in this business in like 2001, which I was just going to college, I was a freshman in college. It was also a crazy time, right? I mean, 9/11 happened in 2001. Lots going on. And then you think about all this. I think about all the cycles you must have seen and all the kind of evolutions and changes you must have seen. You know, how would you kind of like compare where relocation was in 2001 versus where it is in 2025 and that kind of evolution? How would you characterize that?
Man, I think the most of it, you know, like the services that relocation companies have done, have almost not changed. You know, like there's been some small changes. Like we used to have the guaranteed buyout. People had a hard time selling their house, so after a certain time frame, The company would do appraisals and then buy the house from them and then resell them. That was always messy. I think back then we did like mortgage subsidies where we do like a 4-3-2-1 where they'd subsidize their mortgage for the first year heavily and then kind of scale it back until they, I guess, theoretically made more money and could afford the higher mortgage where they're moving. But I mean, it's always been the same stuff: temporary housing, home finding trips, household goods shipment. All those services have remained the same. I think what's changed the most has been the communication style. I mean, back then we were still faxing things. Everything was phone calls. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah, your
relocation.
daytime minutes. I mean, we were just talking about this here in the office. Daytime minutes versus nighttime minutes. People in our office don't even, some people don't even know what that is, right? I mean, that's back when the text messaging rates may apply days. I mean,
Right.
you never would
Exactly. Yeah.
text somebody about business back in the day.
Well, and like even email was not really a thing quite yet. Like we were overnighting introduction packages to new employees. Like the consultant would speak with them, and then I'd package up this big, you know, binder full of stuff that we would overnight to them. All the documents they had to sign and return back to us. We were faxing referral agreements to the agents. Everything was on the phone. I mean, the guys had a headset on, all the consultants, and they were on the phone nonstop. So like that's changed, and even now, like going from the phone calls and the faxes changed to email. Okay, and then that was the big thing, and now it's like Teams meetings became a big thing. And I've seen a shift really in the last year or two to instant messages, where it's like people don't want to wait for you to return an email, even if you're quick to respond. They don't want to get on the phone, but they want you immediately. So I'll get the IMs from the employees, and they're definitely email type content, just asking for something that is not urgent. But it seems to be the new trend, and that would be one thing I would say RMCs can look at. Not developing like AI or bots on their website to answer questions, but having consultants available in real time to address their inquiries. I think that would be a big step up.
Why do you think that people want to use the instant messaging? When you said IM, it took me back to my high school, college days when we were, instant messaging on AOL Instant Messenger or whatever. But now it's funny, people are now kind of going back to that. Why do you think that's grown in popularity?
I mean, honestly, I think people want a quick answer. They want to jump to the top of your priority list. They see that you're active. We kind of have our red, yellow, green lights on our status. So if you're green, then obviously you're available and you can answer my call right now. But they don't want to call. They don't want to talk to you. They want to type it out. So I think it's definitely a new generational thing that I've been struggling to keep up with because I organize a lot of myself through my Outlook. So when everything's in IMs, like it's hard for me to go back and scroll through messages and messages and messages with the same person, figure out what I did, 6 months ago. But almost, I would say half of the employees I work with is 100% instant message, and I've gotten to the point where I'll reply to them via email when they're asking me for something, just so I have a record of what I did, so I can go back and reference it later.
Yeah, I had somebody do that today. Actually, I was messaging via LinkedIn, and they were like, "Hey, let's take this over to email so I can keep track of it because I missed your message a couple days ago." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But my inbox is so full, like my email inbox is so full. My personal one is shot, completely shot. But the one that I use for work has even gotten pretty much overrun with, spam and different newsletters and stuff that I'm subscribed to for no reason. And so I think people want to yeah, cut through all that nonsense, right? I mean, that's the one cool thing about your Slack or your Teams or whatever is that it's still relatively pure. But I did notice on Teams that you could Teams message people from other organizations. So like
Mm.
I could Teams you or something, and I've
Right.
seen my clients that I've had Teams meetings with now populate in my Teams list of people I can contact. And I'm
Right.
like, is it wild to like team somebody from another company? Like, or is that
I'm
fair
telling you.
game these days?
I think we're seeing that evolve into that space now, where no one wants to talk on the phone unless that just seems I think antiquated to folks. Obviously, we saw the fax machine get pitched, the overnight packages were pitched, and we're moving from this team environment for having calls on your camera to instant messages where everything's just happening in real time. And I'm seeing that a lot, like even with our HR leadership team, where they want to see with our HRIS system, Workday, how can we integrate the RMC's dashboard reports onto Workday so that we have real time access. That if I get a question from an employee, I can go into Workday, see what their relocation costs are, see what services they've used, see what their most recent notes are with their consultant. So it's this push to have everything immediately available and having someone immediately available whenever you need it.
Super interesting stuff. People are in here kind of making fun of, call 1010 220. I don't even remember what that means. You remember what that means?
Yeah. Gosh, wasn't that
It's like,
for rates? I think like cheaper
was it?
rates.
Oh, maybe like, yeah, maybe it was, yeah, maybe. Rob said the information superhighway. Yeah, I know. I was waiting like 5 seconds for something to upload earlier today, and I about threw my phone against the wall. I'm like, I can't believe this is ridiculous. I'm like, so funny how far we've come and how
Mhm.
impatient we are nowadays. People are talking about asking Jeeves. Watch out. There might be an Ask RMC. Coming up here as well. Um, I got a question though. I was talking to and Jack, hey, Jack, I see you there. I was talking to someone yesterday. They were on the corporate. They were discovered creating an instant meeting on LinkedIn recently. Sort of invasive, I think. Carol, create an instant meeting with me. I want to see what that looks like. Let's do that offline or now, whatever. Fine. We'll take callers. Um, I was talking to her, and she had worked on the supplier side. She'd worked on the corporate side. And she asked my opinion. I'm going to ask you this question. She said, what do you think about corporate folks going to the other side, going to the supplier side? Some people call it the dark side. What are your thoughts, Christian, about that?
I mean, I was on the light side, went back to the dark side, like I guess dark, light, dark,
Yeah,
back
it's
to
very
light. I don't
perspective
know.
driven. Yeah.
I think there's some things that are nice about it. Like from my
Which
role
which side?
now,
They're nice about what side? Which side?
well, both. So like on the client side, I like that it's more challenging. I like that I'm the only mobility person for our company. So there's kind of some I get to operate with power in that respect, where I don't have to really answer to anyone other than my boss, who doesn't spend a lot of time in mobility. What the drawback is like I do a lot of immigration along with the relocation with global tax, program management, I-9 stuff. So there's a lot more to the job. Whereas I can see the appeal of going back to the RMC, where it's very specific, and I don't have to deal with immigration. I don't have to deal with needy employees and HR leaders and managers. I can just kind of focus on one piece of the pie. I definitely can see the appeal in that.
You talked about, you mentioned immigration, so I'm going to talk about that because I've been thinking a lot about that lately. And you mentioned that RMCs have kind of been offering the same services for, same suite of services for 24 years, and I don't disagree. And the services that they've been focused on, domestic home sale, household goods moving, you can argue have become less and less relevant, and kind of disrupted quite a bit. But when I think about services that haven't, and that might even present growth opportunities, I think about things like immigration, compliance, obviously business travel, things like that. Do you think there's an opportunity for RMCs to actually provide immigration services so there's kind of a one hand to shake kind of experience for the client? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, and there are some that do, and there are companies that will outsource that. I think for me, there's such a high anxiety from the employees to have things done immediately, that adding another layer of wait time, because there's documents that only the company can sign. So if they're going through an H-1B transfer, there's documents that have to be drafted by the immigration provider that are signed by their company. So having a relocation person kind of acting as an intermediary would be great from having one stop shop for the employee, but ultimately I think there could be delays and processing, which especially onboarding new transfers coming to the company, I mean, we want, as soon as I get a transfer notification, it's done within like the first 15 minutes because I want to get that
Hmm.
time, that clock ticking. So I think it could be good, but you know, it'd have to be a pretty efficient machine to keep things moving along at the right pace.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. I mean, I think about home sale. So your real estate purchase goes through an RMC, your household goods go through an RMC. All of those things are outsourced on the other end. And the RMC can definitely increase the wait time because it's another layer, but they can also sometimes lean on the providers, maybe get better service, get more responsiveness, et cetera. Because I do hear folks complain all the time about how long it takes to get the answers back from, your immigration provider, or what's my status, or where am I at, or there's just a lot of uncertainty, to kind of to your point earlier. So, I wonder who provides the better service. Is it the immigration firm or the RMC, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a pretty good immigration firm. I think with almost any service industry, you're only as good as the team that you're given.
Yeah.
There could be great companies that have service failures because the person assigned just doesn't do as great of a job as someone else. And then you get the next person in line and they do great. They're super responsive. They get back to you right away, give you great information so you don't have to keep coming back for more. But from my opinion, I think I carry a little bit more weight with our immigration attorney because it's my account with them, versus if it's going through a third party where they have several accounts with them.
Yeah.
So even if they lose one, they're still going to keep the others. Whereas with us, if you lose our account, that's all the business for us.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I see people, same thing with the van line. They want to have direct relationships, or the corporate housing company, they want to have direct relationships because they feel like they get more responsiveness and accountability. Super interesting, Christian. I could talk to you for a long time about all this stuff. I find this really interesting on so many levels. We have one more question before we get in. Oh my gosh, come on, Richard. You going to ask about tariffs? Will the tariff wars affect relocation? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts
I
there,
mean,
Christian?
at the end of the day, it's going to be another cost of doing business. Like costs continue to go up on everything. Look at temporary housing, for example. I mean, that's a cost that keeps climbing, and there's nothing you can do about it. If the tariffs go up on like household goods, shipments, it's just something we're going to have to deal with. And when we tabulate the estimates at the end of the day, it's just going to be an extra cost. From my perspective, if we're paying $100,000+ to move someone from here to there, another 5 grand is not going to put a ding in it.
Yeah, cool, interesting. Yeah, Richard, I think from my perspective, I think it could create, maybe, I mean, if it depresses the economies of either country, right, the US or the other tariff country, I mean, you could argue that there's less demand for relocation. If there's less economic growth and less demand for relocation, things of that nature. However, we've seen tons of economic growth over the last, 8 years or whatever, and relocation volumes have generally been lower. So I think there's other factors too. And I'm also wondering, like, well, gosh, if the stock market's up and relocation's down, well, maybe when the stock market goes down, relocation will go up. Who knows, right? So none of this stuff makes a whole lot of sense to me. Um, yeah, really, really interesting here. We had a question actually that I want to ask you because I don't get the opportunity to ask this question. Jack Taylor said, "What are your opinions on integrating more faith-based elements like talents and other stories into business and daily life?"
I mean, I do. I handle myself with integrity. I do all things as if I'm doing it onto him. I treat my employees with love. I'm compassionate with their needs, and I think my faith makes me a better worker. And I don't sit there and quote scriptures to the employees that I'm moving or anything like that. I think they can just feel a genuine love from me, that I care about their situation. I care about their family. I care about things that are blowing up on their desk. There's a genuine desire to help them that I think for sure helps me in doing what I do.
It's funny you say that, right? Because I've noticed also when I'll like connect with people like in this industry, and I can just like see their, like, feel their heart, and like you feel like you have a deep connection with somebody and just feel like the goodness, from them, or their light shining a little bit. You go deeper, maybe the third conversation, something comes out about their faith, and you're like, oh, now I get it. Okay. Yeah,
Right.
that's where that comes from. So Yeah, super cool. And I do. I think it's being authentic, right? It's just like, yeah, totally. I got to ask you this. 'Cause I told Christian I would.
Okay.
You
I don't
said,
know, I'm a daredevil. I was in that 101st Airborne Division, so
that's,
I went to airborne school, went to air assault school, got to jump out of Blackhawks. I carried a SAW or squad automatic weapon, which is one of the machine guns, which was kind of funny because I was a skinny little thing back in those days. I don't know why they gave me a bigger gun to carry around. But yeah, I got to move to Germany, Japan, Saudi Arabia with the army. So it was a great life experience, especially for a little punk kid like me. It was great to get out of Southern California and go see other parts of the world. It had a dramatic influence on me, not just my perspective, but also with discipline. I don't know if I was a daredevil. I mean, I guess you're jumping out of
bro, you
planes.
said you jump out of Blackhawks with a big old machine gun. What are you talking about, man? That's not normal, dude.
It's a
That's
long
not
time
regular.
ago,
Like, I went and got an English degree for 4 years. You jumped out of helicopters with a machine gun. These are not the same thing, Christian.
I
Oh my
guess.
God. That's great. I love it. Oh my goodness. Just kidding. Anyway, good stuff here. All right, Christian, we're running out of time, but I got to play the game. We got to
All
play the
right.
game. Christian, last time you were on the show, it's been a while now. I don't think we were playing this game back in the day. So I got to ask you, um, do you know how to play? Overrated, underrated?
I guess I vote one or the other, right?
I mean, you would think it would be that easy, wouldn't you?
Okay. I
Um,
would think.
I'm going to give you a topic. You're going to tell me if it's either overrated or underrated.
Okay.
And then I will tell you if you're correct.
Okay.
All right. And of course, the audience might chime in and, change my mind. And then we're going to keep scoring, which yeah, you did. All
Okay.
right. It's totally not fair at all, but that's okay. You seem like a cool, chill dude. All right. Here we go. Let's go. First one up. Overrated, underrated. Electric cars.
Underrated or overrated, I guess, right?
Overrated. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, I drive a '76 Cherokee with a 401 gas guzzling engine. Like, I know that's not a popular opinion, but I love it, man.
Uh, what would you say to people who thought that electric cars are faster than other cars? They're torquey, things like that. I mean, they outperform a Ferrari off the line. What
I
are your
invite them
thoughts?
out to. They can bring it out to the trail with me, and we'll see who makes it to the top of the mountain.
Bring the Tesla Cybertruck out to the trail and see if the 76 Jeep doesn't have it licked. All right. I like it.
Easy. I'll be
I
towing them
like
home.
it. I'll be telling him home, he says. I love it. All right. 1 point for Christian. Electric cars are overrated. I agree with you. Oh man, we got cars are overrated, Richard says. Wow, dude. Shots fired. Okay. European cars. They got the tariffs now. Jeez, watch out. All right, next one up. Minimalism, overrated or underrated?
Dude, heavily underrated. I love minimalism. Less is more, in my opinion.
Well, especially when you move like you do.
Man, it's great because my wife, I mean, she's a hoarder. So every time we move, it's just wonderful to see the purging activity that goes on. Like, especially with 4 kids, like you have all the baby stuff, and it's like, I mean,
Uh,
really, are we ever going to use this stuff again? Like, it's time to go. So cutting ties, being able to have to squeeze everything into one box truck, it's an exhilarating experience to get all that stuff out of the garage.
I love it. I love it. You know what? I got too much stuff, dude. I just moved and I think having a professional move you encourages hoarding to an extent because you're like, whatever, they'll deal with it. And then it just sits in a box in your garage, and then they move it again, and it gets a new sticker, and it sits in a box in the garage until basically you die, and then your kids go through it and they wonder why it was ever there. Um, but when you move yourself, you make decisions, hard and fast decisions, and you're handling every item that goes in that box, right? And so you're making a
Mhm.
decision about it. So there's something good about that. Yeah, I definitely give you a point for that one. Minimalism definitely underrated. All right, Christian, you're on a heater. 2-0 right now, going into the turn here. Next one up, overrated, underrated, spending money on yourself. Whoa,
Overrated.
overrated.
Yeah, like
What was the
well,
last thing you spent? What was the last thing you spent money on for yourself, Christian? Where you really like opened it up and it kind of you had to dig deep. It kind of stung a little bit. You had to ask for permission. What was the last thing you had to ask for permission that you bought for yourself?
Honestly, I can't even think. Like the last time I bought a little trail bike when we had that economic stimulus. It was like
Yeah.
$600 or something like
Yeah,
that.
you got your COVID money and you're like, hey, let's go.
Right. So I did spend that on myself. I ended up selling it for about what I paid for it when we left Idaho, and I used the
Love
money to
that.
buy a little boat for the lake instead. So it's like, I mean, I got 4 kids and a wife on a single income, so I don't get to spend a lot of money on myself, but I
I hear
do
that.
enjoy spending it on others.
Yeah, there's a simplicity about that. And I'll tell you what, like I buy stuff for my kids all the time and they don't care. They don't have they can be crying on the floor begging for a toy sword and then 2 days later, like never touch it again.
Right.
And it creates like so much like I don't know what the word is, materialism, I guess.
Hmm.
And it never ends. It's a never ending pit. The more you have, the more you want. I was at church the other day and they were talking about that. The more you have, the more you want. That being said,
Because
yeah,
my son has the Nintendo Switch, and he's got it like loaded with all the Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games, like
yeah,
64 games. I'm like, dude, when I grew up, I had Super Mario, I had Ninja Turtles, I think I had Contra, and that was it.
yeah.
Like 3 games. And like I was happy with that. You have like 1,000 games, you're still not
A,
happy.
1,000 games at his fingertips and he's still not satisfied. Isn't that crazy?
But it's crazy to me.
Yeah. And you probably beat like a couple of those games because you just
Except
focused on one game.
yeah, and you beat it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like that's all you had to play.
Yeah. There's something to boredom and mastery and creativity. And like, I feel like we're depriving ourselves and our kids of, the being bored. I think that's important.
I agree.
Don't kids do paper rounds anymore? What about kids in work and kids having jobs?
They do jobs around the house. I just paid my daughter $30 to line a path in the backyard with stones that she dug out of the yard. So I try to give them jobs like that.
Yeah, that's hard work right there. That's not like doing the dishes. Here's $5. That's like digging up, moving earth right
That's right.
there. All right. You know what? 3 points for Christian, even though I do spend on myself quite a bit. All right, next one up here, overrated, underrated, blessing others. Softball question.
Yeah, that's a home run. I love it, really. The people, I mean, not just my family, but other people that you see in need. There's a joy that comes from that, like not even just money, but like with your time. Inviting someone that is having a rough day out to lunch and buying them lunch and just sitting there being a shoulder to cry on or an ear to vent on. I think a lot of people right now just have an over busy schedule that they don't have time for other people. So if you can't use your time, then obviously financial blessings are great too. But seeing other people in need really makes you grateful for what you have yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I love this. A phrase I hear is time, talent, and treasure. So you have one of those things, right? If you don't have treasure. If you don't have money, you have time. If you don't have time, you're good as so it's like one piece of advice I give people out there, to Christian's point is if there's something you're really good at that's easy for you to do, but is really hard, daunting for somebody else, they need it. That's an opportunity for you to be a blessing to somebody else, mentor them, or just do a quick thing for them that's really not too bad at all for you. And the other thing I would say is if you're ever feeling down, because I don't know about you, but I do these like kind of ups and downs, right? Some days I feel like I'm just the bomb, and some days I feel like, I got hit by a bomb, right? And the fastest way for me to jumpstart myself out of the doldrums is to stop worrying about myself and thinking about what I have or don't have or whatever, and to think about someone else and how do I do something for someone else. And it could be as easy as writing a nice encouraging comment on LinkedIn for somebody, to giving somebody some sincere appreciation or feedback, or helping somebody out, lending my time, talent, and treasure. And all of a sudden that piece of giving jumpstarts something in my life where I start blessing people, and you kind of get what you give, and all of a sudden you find blessings start getting poured into your life. It's pretty cool. So that's my advice to people out there.
I
Yeah.
love it.
All right. 4 points, Christian. All right. This is the last one, right, Samara? Last one. You feeling the pressure, Christian? You feeling it? All right.
I'm all right. I'm loosey goosey.
Here we go. Helping people
I
that
mean,
need it.
there was a great quote from Dave Grable that I always remember. It was a mantra that he taught while I was with the company, and it was, "What do you need, and how can I help?" And really, I mean, to kind of piggyback off the blessing, I mean, I found that when I do things for myself, I go to bed that night feeling somewhat fulfilled. But when I help other people that need it, I go to bed feeling really fulfilled.
Hmm.
And it's like that whole day had a meaning, like it was something that blessed them, but in the same respect, it blessed me more, I think. I go to bed feeling satisfied. I go to bed feeling happy, joyful, and really waking up wanting to do it again the next day.
Well, I got good news for you today, Christian. You've been a real blessing to other people today. Richard says it's been a great show, Christian. I'm sure it's going to really work out with this move. Pleased for you and your family.
Thank you, Richard.
Jillian was somewhat concerned though, because she saw a cat walk by the window. I
Yeah,
thought,
she that's our cat. She comes
is it a
in and
mountain
eats, and then goes.
leopard?
I wish that'd be kind of cool. But no, it's the cat that we brought from Idaho.
Okay, so it could have been a mountain leopard. Could be a
It
long
could.
descendant of a mountain leopard, Richard. Super cool. This has been really, really great. Um, Christian, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing, kind of your journey, literally and figuratively, and your thoughts on relocation. It's been really inspiring to me and to everyone out there. So really, really, really appreciate you, and it's been a real blessing.
Thanks, Ben. Likewise. Appreciate talking to you like always.
Yeah, super cool. Let's stay in touch and let's do it again soon, even if it's not on the show. Hey, everybody, thanks for being here today. We wouldn't have a show without you. Thanks for getting in the comments. Hit that like button one more time. Leave some love for Christian. And don't forget to tune in on Thursday. We've got Rob Zeitz, Customer Success Manager, coming in live. The pun master himself will be live on the show Thursday. So that's going to be a lot of fun with Rob. It's always a silly good time. And can't wait to see him Thursday and all of you tuning in. Thanks again, Christian. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, guys.